Hi, in this screencast I will try to explain what is going on behind the graphical user interface of GeoWire. So we know the basic functions in the front end and in the back end. And now let's have a look at the code. So this is the standard demo map. I can show the source code. First the HTML. We have the title, GeoWire demo map, it's the same like here. Then we have the CSS styling and the JavaScript for the Ext framework, open layers, project4.js, and I think we wouldn't need the Google Maps API. Here the body starts first with the shortcodes for editing the map and switching off the development state. That's because we are logged in. Let's try to log out quick. And log out. Okay, so these shortcodes are away, but it's still in dev mode. And we see dev mode is still here, but the shortcodes are gone. The next part are the HTML elements. That's just a container for everything that is put out in HTML. There's quite no order because every div is a container for some markup, and that is loaded into the Ext panels on the front end via JavaScript during runtime. But it doesn't matter where the HTML is here. JavaScript loads it here or in this panel or in this panel or here. So it's just in our HTML file we have to have the HTML with all the IDs that we can call it in JavaScript. So that's all HTML, all the input files for input fields for the core input here, and then this line at the very end of the file is where all the magic happens. And this one JavaScript file. So that's quite a lot of code, as you can see. And first of all, I will show you what this dev mode means. We have to log in at the backend. And now we can switch off dev mode. Okay, we see we are logged in, dev mode is switched off. At first we don't see anything else, but if we have a look at the source code of the JavaScript file, we see now everything is minimized and not readable. So actually that's what dev mode does. It gets all the JavaScript and minifies it all to one file and strips all the spaces and all that. So during development, of course, it's far easier to switch dev mode on. And now we can read all the code again. Okay, let's copy all the code to my editor so we can read it a little bit better. It's JavaScript syntax, and as I said, it's quite a lot of code. it's divided in some sections. First is the initialize section, then comes the layers definition. Now we have to tap that. Then the second one is functions section, then the controls section, and at the end the map panel toolbar. Okay, let's go to the exciting part. That's the GeoWire, or better said, the process wire template that puts everything together. We have it here in the site folder, in the templates. There are all the process wire templates that come with a standard process wire installation, like head ink and food ink. And the map PHP is the main template for GeoWire. So here we see HTML with the title and all the style sheets and JavaScripts. It was the same like here in the source code. HTML, head, title, and the scripts. Of course, the title is dynamically loaded by ProcessWire. That's here. So page title gets the title of the map and puts it into here, into the template file. Also, here is one interesting part. If you have the dev mode on, it loads the Ext JavaScript framework in debug mode, so it's also readable, and same here for project4.js. Otherwise it would load the minified version. You can skip this, and here we are in the body. So this part is for the shortcodes here for the dev mode. So here, switch off development state. Yeah, that's the diff for the development status. And here the shortcodes for the edit links. There it is, with a absolute positioned diff. Okay. The next part are the HTML elements. As I said, it's just a container. They get loaded by the Ext JavaScript framework. So what it does here, it gets all the children with all the children of the HTML page, and it includes them into the template. So let's go to the back end demo map. Here we have the HTML page with all its children, and all of those children get included into the template file. So look at the HTML here. HTML elements. The first one is the draw div. This one. buffer diff, but I don't know right now. Here, yeah, HTML elements, div ID buffer diff is the first, then comes draw diff, then next would, sorry, buffer diff, draw diff, then the cohorts diff, feature info diff, and so on. Cohorts diff, feature info diff, and so on. So that's all the HTML stuff. Then next, just a simple diff for outputting that data is loaded. And here we are. That's the most interesting part of GeoWire template, because this section puts all the code snippets together to one minified JavaScript file. So it says it loads all of the JavaScript files into the buffer, this section, and then makes one JavaScript file. Here, if dev mode is on, it includes the PHP minify library and minifies all the buffer data. And here it puts everything together in one JavaScript file under GeoWire app, then the page ID, and then .js. So in our example, it is app 1012.js. We can have a look. Yeah, app 1012.js is the corresponding JavaScript file for GeoWire demo map. Here you have the ID of the page, 1012, corresponds to this JavaScript file. Okay, back to the code. Okay, down here is the interesting part. We have one include function here and one recursive function here that loads everything in the buffer. And then here the buffer is minified if it's not in dev mode, and then written to one JavaScript file. Here you see it's stored on the GeoWire app page ID JS. Like for the demo, it's app 1012.js. Can go to the back end and edit this page, and we see here's the corresponding ID for the GeoWire demo map. Is the page ID for ProcessWire is 1012, so it loads the app file with the number 1012. So the recursive function gets all the children and calls the include file function. So for GeoWire demo map, that would be all these children. First it calls initialize, then all the HTML elements, then all the layers, functions, controls, then the layout. And yeah, actually it just includes some JavaScript and PHP code. Let's have a look at this with one example. GeoWire, let's take the map panel toolbar. It's quite simple, quite a simple example. That is the code for a map panel toolbar. So it's ext JavaScript code. Here we have the map panel toolbar object. It creates a toolbar object that says docket on top. That's what we see here. That is the toolbar and it's docked to the top. We can try bottom here. Upload it. So yeah, now the toolbar is docked to the bottom. But we change that again to top. And here, that's the interesting point. Here we have an array of items. Array item is again a JavaScript object, and they are dynamically loaded into the JavaScript code via PHP or via process wire. So the items are all the page children. If there is an include file, it includes the code of the include file. Afterwards echoes a comma, and if there is a direct code, that's what you would input. Toggle button, for example, that would be direct input. Then it echoes the direct input here. Okay, save. So that's all the magic, and that's what it does recursively for every single page element that we have here under the map element. I hope you got a quick insight to GeoWire and you liked my video. Any feedback is very appreciated.